Back in session. I now hand over to the prosecution to continue his line of questioning. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we broke, we were talking about the issue of biographies. Can you tell us were all the cadres who worked at the ministry required to prepare biographies?
Yes, they had to provide their biographies.
And we were looking at the section of the notes of the 1977 cell plan. And I want to turn you now to the end of that section, which is at Khmer page 00427-948 and English ERN 0003336. And the section of the notes I wanted you to look at is titled "The Leadership Line to Complete the 1977 Plan." Again, that's Khmer 00427-948. And in the section titled Leadership Line to Complete the 1977 Plan, there is the following statement, quote, "You must not let the masses in the ministry know all of our plans," end of quote. Who was it that provided this instruction?
In that Congress, Ieng Sari was the presenter, and he outlined as to what were considered internal matters. So those matters who were considered internal was to be known by only internal staff.
Do you recall in general what the matters were that were considered internal, that were to be kept a secret from the other ministry cadres?
I cannot recall them because it happened long time ago.
The last part of the notebook, this document that I wanted to ask you about, is a section that starts at Khmer ERN 00427-848 and continues through 427-854. The corresponding English pages are 0000-3265 through 3270. And this section of the notes is titled, quote, 14 July 1976, objectives to direct the work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from July 1976 to July 1977. And if you could look at that part of the notes, and then I wanted to first direct you to the start of Part 4, which is on Khmer ERN 00427-849, English ERN 00003267. And on that page, on page 427849, there is a section titled All Working Sectors, which lists 7 sections of the ministry. And the 7 sections of the ministry that are identified are 1, Propaganda and Education Unit, 2, Office, 3, Farming Sector, 4th, the Political Sector, 5th, the Protocol Office, 6th, the Governing Secretariat, and 7th, Civil Aviation. My first question is whether this list accurately reflects the different sections of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as of July 1976.
Response. Yes, the heading is all working sectors, and it does reflect the various sections.
And the second section that is listed here, Office, is that of the part of the ministry for which you were responsible?
Response. Yes.
And if you would turn to Khmer page 00427-853, which is English page 00003269. On that page, there is a paragraph 8 that describes a unit called the Secrecy Sector that I'd like to ask you about. Now, on this page, the secrecy sector is described as follows, quote, "This sector is under the leadership of the office. Reports must be clearly made to the office. Educate in political and spiritual standpoints constantly. Assign and push forward the 3 movements. Get rid of freedom. Plan to increase production." Can you tell us what the function of the secrecy unit was and who was in charge of that unit?
Response. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there was a section in charge of secrecy matter. This matter was not meant to be known in general by others, because in that there were some secret guests, visitors, and open visitors. So people who were tasked with secrecy matters would have to implement their task accordingly.
And if you could briefly turn to the paragraph 4 of this section, which relates to the political sector, and that is on Khmer page 00427 851, English page 00003268. And this is the first long paragraph in the section that describes the political sector. And the statement that I wanted to ask you about related to the political sector reads as follows, quote, grasp tightly the situation of the revolutionary movement inside and outside the country so that we can be confident in the implementation of the collective political line of Ankara. My question for you is, who was it that communicated to ministry cadres the collective political line of Ankara?
Response. Ieng Sary was the was a presenter in the session, and each section would pick up what being lectured during the sessions to be presented in their each respective unit. For example, people in the education section would also pick from what being instructed during the main session chaired by Mr. Ieng Sary to the session. This applied to the protocol section and also to the secrecy section.
Who was the head of the ministry's political section?
Response. For political section, it was Ieng Sary who was overall in charge, and Bong So Hong was his the person, the second in command from him.
On the next page of the notes, Khmer ERN 00427-852, English ERN 00003269, there is a description of the Secretariat that I'd like to ask you about. And that's it's numbered paragraph 6. And what I'd like to ask you about reads, it's a description of the governing secretariat, and it describes its functions, one of its functions as follows, quote, helping the offices to deal with the compilation of in-out documents, letters of congratulation, national ceremonies, the military days of our friendly nations, letters exchanged across all the embassies and states, and preparation for international conferences. Can you tell us who was the person who was in charge of the Secretariat section of the ministry?
Response. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Chun Prosit was in charge of this affair.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have from those notes. I have one other a new document that I'd like to give to the witness at this time, which is E3/857. I have a hard copy to give to the witness, and I'll have some foundational questions to determine if the witness has knowledge of this matter.
The President, you may proceed. The court officer is now instructed to bring the hard copy of the document from the co-prosecutor to the witness for examination.
Mr. Witness, the document that I'm giving to you, which again for the record is E3/857, is dated the 12th of September 1977 and is titled Working with the Committees of Every Unit, and appears to be a report of a ministry conference. I'd like you to take a look at the document and tell me whether you're familiar with the ministry conference that is discussed in the document.
Response. This session also was chaired by Ieng Sari. The report was filed for all units. People from all parts of the country were invited to attend the session, and people who worked in various sections in Phnom Penh also were part of the session. They were invited.
The first item in the initial section, which is titled Summary of the Reports from Every Unit, the first item in that section is titled Enemy Activities, and it's on Khmer page 00086-707, English ERN 00355-487, and French ERN 00811-327. And the specific reference that I'd like to ask you about reads as follows, quote, "At our ministry's conference, it was noted that we have basically smashed and swept cleanly away the enemies who were CIA, KGB, and WAN territory swallowers," end of quote. Who was it that reported at the ministry conference that CIA, KGB, and WAN enemies had been smashed and swept cleanly away.
The President, witness, could you please hold on, wait until we hear from counsel for Mr. Ingsari before you may proceed with your response. Counsel, you may now proceed. Counsel Ang Adam. Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors. Good morning, everyone in this courtroom. Witness has not responded to the question concerning whether he is familiar or have ever read this document before. I have noted that he is reviewing the document, and for the purpose of acknowledgement of the document, our question should be put to him to see whether he has seen the document before, so that we are now following the rules I stated.
Yeah, Mr. President, I heard the witness say, identify the conference that the document relates to and say that the document was distributed to all the cadres. So I believe he has already testified to the matters that counsel is asking about.
The President, thank you. The objection and ground for the objection by counsel for Mr. Ingsari are not substantiated and therefore not sustained. Co-prosecutor may proceed, and witness is instructed to respond to questions when put. Response by the witness. As I already stated, this document was done, and it was in the meeting, and I also am familiar with the document. I received the document during that session. This document is about the report on each unit's summary of work, and then the meeting approved the content of which, including the numbers of CIA or KGB who were smashed and swept clean. The President, thank you, witness. The last question put to you by the prosecutor appears to be forgotten by witness, so you may co-prosecutor may be now advised to repeat the question so that witness can respond directly to that question.
Thank you, Mr. President. The specific question was the very first sentence in this report states, at our ministry's conference, it was noted that we have basically smashed and swept cleanly away the enemies who were CIA, KGB, and WAN. Was it one person in particular who made this statement or report at the ministry? And if so, who was that?
Response. I do not remember this. I don't remember who, but I already stated that Ingsari was the one who made the presentation, and So Hong was also the person who summarized the report submitted by each sub-unit or section, and indeed the summarized report would be the compilation of reports that submitted by each individual representative of each unit. That's why finally there was a conclusion that was in writing, and I would like to confirm that I have seen the document before. The President, Counsel, you may now proceed. Witness, could you please hold on? Counsel Son Arun. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. My sincere apologies for being on my feet to cut the question and answer session by Mr. Co-Prosecutor and the witness. My client, Mr. Nuon Chia, feel dizzy and could not remain in the courtroom. He asked that he be excused and be allowed to observe the proceedings from his holding cell. The President, the Chamber grants such request. Mr. Nuon Chia can be now taken to his holding cell, where he can observe the proceedings from there. Counsel for Nuon Chia is advised to submit the waiver signed or given thumbprint by Mr. Nuon Chia immediately to the chamber. AV booth officer are instructed to ensure that his cell is well connected to the courtroom so that he can observe the proceedings from there. Security personnel are now instructed to bring Mr. Nuon Chia down to the holding cell. Counsel Son Arun. I am sorry, Mr. President. May we also ask that a medical doctor is assigned to check his health condition? The President, indeed, your request just now made before the chamber concerning the health status by your client perhaps is well informed already to the medical doctor, because he's on duty to make sure that the health condition of each accused is checked. And counsel is now advised not to do so amid of the questioning session or cross-examination session unless your health, the health condition of your client is very grave and that you need to interrupt the proceeding. However, we find that it's not very helpful because everyone got lost midway and we're in the middle of nowhere because we don't know from which point the witness was testifying, and perhaps he also forgets the question asked to him. Witness responses. Mr. President, I would like Mr. Prosecutor to repeat the question because I have forgotten it.
Yes, Mr. President. I think we were just about to start a new question. The same paragraph from the report that I've asked you about on page, Khmer page 86707, at the end of the first paragraph, the document states as follows, quote, "We achieved unity that the enemy is not yet completely gone from our ministry or from any of its units of organization. We must therefore continue sweeping cleanly to make our ministry, like each and every one of its units, immaculate." End of quote. Who was it that provided the instruction to continue sweeping cleanly the ministry?
Response. based on the document, it was Ieng Sari who made such a statement, because he already indicated that such a sweeping, clean effort was done properly already, and we continue to do so. And this was very internal matter, because according to the reports obtained, some people still were not certain concerning their position, their stance. Although we have done great so far, there's still some points that need to delve with in the future.
And towards the bottom of the same page, Khmer 000-86707, and this is on English 00355-488, and French ERN 00811-327. The document contains the following statement, quote, "The enemy makes it heard that in a little while everybody will be arrested and only Brother Q Sampan will be left. Our comrades know how to analyze this sort of thing and report it. Once we have effected the arrests and conducted the interrogations, we can see the enemy links clearly." End of quote. Do you remember who it was at the ministry conference who made that statement?
Response. I think the point is too detailed for me to remember.
That's all the questions I have on that document, Mr. Witness. Let me now turn to another subject matter. Was there a period of time during the Democratic Kampuchea regime when people were arrested and disappeared from the ministry?
Response. Yes, it was. However, I do not remember. Perhaps it was happening in 1977 and 1978.
And were cadres from the ministry also sent to work sites for tempering?
Response. Yes, they were. People were sent to the production site and also the work site for tempering.
What were the production and work sites to which ministry personnel were sent for tempering?
Response. For B1 office, people would be sent to the Kamau production section, which was under the supervision of the ministry.
Did the Takmau production site have a code name or code number?
Response. No, there is no code name. It's only known as production site at the Khmer.
Were ministry personnel also sent to the Kampong Chhnang airfield construction site?
Response. People who were sent to the Takmau production site were not sent to Kampong Chhnang airfield. I don't know whether people were sent there, but none of them was sent from my section.
What type of conduct resulted in ministry personnel being sent for tempering?
Response. People who committed some minor mistakes, for example, they did not work actively or failed to perform the tasks given to them.
And who was it that made the decision on whether ministry personnel should be sent for tempering?
Response. In the ministry, at the kitchen section, we worked with people in charge of the kitchen. And if we noted that they made some mistake, then they would be sent to be tempered there. For the guest reception section, people who was in charge of the section who spotted the wrongdoings of their subordinates then would make the decision to send people out to be tempered. However, whatever decision was made, the final approval had to be from Ieng Sari.
Mr. President, I'd like to read to the witness a short excerpt from his second OCIJ interview, which is document E3/63. E3/63. And the reference that I'd like to ask him about is at Khmer ERN 00228-846, English ERN 00231-411, and French ERN 00376-057. We previously provided a copy of that interview. I have another copy with me if we need that one, and we'd also like to display the section on the screen.
The President, yes, you may proceed. Court officer, please examine the document before the witness and facilitate him so that it saves the court time. President, if you cannot locate the document on the screen, please obtain the hard copy from the prosecution and present it to him.
The part of your statement to the co-investigating judges that I wanted to ask you about, again, it's on Khmer page 228846, and it reads as follows, quote, Office 870 sent the information to Uncle Ing Sari, who was the person who made the decisions on who was to be sent to be tempered. End of quote. The question I'd like to ask you is what type of information was sent by Office 870 to Ing Sari relating to cadres who were subject to tempering or arrest?
On this point, as I indicated earlier on, first, upon receiving the information or document from Office 870, Ing Sari would advise accordingly, but it was the decision of the Office 870, but the instruction came through to Ing Sari, and Ing Sari would decide on, would continue to implement that decision or instruction.
Did Ing Sari receive from Office 870 S21 confessions containing the names of ministry cadres who had been implicated?
The President. Witness, please hold on. There is an objection by the International Defense Council for Q. Sampon. Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have the same objection to level. I see that the witness stands by his previous statements. I'm not sure if it's entirely conducive of the prosecutor's questions to have him repeat his answers. He can answer the questions in order to confirm what he has said previously.
The President, thank you. And I wish to remind the witness that you are testifying before us without making specific reference to the document. So you may simply respond to the question posed by each party. There may be variation between the statement you provided in your early interview and the question being asked to you. But unless you are directed to a specific portion of the document, then you can refer to that written record of the statement. And in addition, you are advised to listen attentively to the question put by the parties. And you do not have to read the answer from the statement. The prosecutor, could you please repeat your last question?
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, did Ing Sari receive from Office 870 S21 confessions that contained the names of ministry cadres who had been implicated?
When there was a written instruction from the upper authority, then he would relay that information to people involved. And there was personnel from the ministry who go and fetch the document from the Office 870.
Mr. President, at this time I'd like to read a section from the witnesses, the same interview, E3/63, and this is on, I believe it's on the same page, Khmer ERN 00228-846, French ERN 00376-057, and English ERN 00231-411, and we'd also like to put that on the screen.
Yes, you may proceed.
In your interview, Mr. Witness, you were asked the question, who made the decisions on who was sent to S-21 or to be tempered? And your answer was as follows, quote, "Cases of the most serious wrongdoing were taken from the implications in the confessions and reported by Deutsch to Office 870, then sent to B1. Office 870 sent the information to Uncle Ing Sari, who was the person who made the decisions on who was to be sent to be tempered. Uncle Ing Sari told me that those confessions were sent to him with annotations. Sometimes he received them during communal meal times, and sometimes they were sent to his office via secret letters." End of quote. My first question, follow-up question on this is, who was it, to your knowledge, who was it from Office 870 that sent these documents to Ing Sari?
Office 870, and it could have been the first ANCOL or the second ANCOL.
Did Ing Sari tell you what types of annotations were on the confessions that he received?
I did not see the letter or documents, but there was statements there. He never revealed it to us. But as for the specific individuals to be taken away for tampering was decided by the Office 870, and I did not see annotation or letters from anyone myself.
Did Ing Sari tell you what he did with the confessions after he received them?
He instructed to me that certain confession indicated the implication of KGB or CIA or other aggressive forces.
And when it was determined that ministry personnel were to be arrested, who conducted the arrests?
Most of the time, Office 870 conducted the arrest, and they also sent trucks to take people away.
Was there a specific unit at Office 870 that was responsible for conducting these arrests?
At that time, people called that unit Y10.
And did you know who was in charge of the Y10 unit?
The first person I knew from Y10 was Hien. Hien and Van. They were military personnel attached to Y10.
And can you tell us how the military personnel from Y10 who came to the ministry to conduct arrests, how did they know where to find the person they were arresting?
For example, a person by the name A, according to that document, then the ministry would ask the named individual to stay in the ministry, and they would not allow that person to leave the ministry until he was taken away.
Mr. President, I'd like to read another excerpt from the same interview, E3/63. This excerpt is at Khmer 00228-845, English ERN 00231-411, and French ERN 00376-056. And we'd also like to put that on the screen with your leave.
Yes, you may go ahead.
In this statement to the co-investigating judges, you made the following statement, quote, "If there was any confession, the names of those implicated were sent to Uncle Ing Suri for him to clarify and to tell them who those persons were and in what sections they worked. They were subsequently arrested by military personnel from Y10 of Office 870. The arrests were made during the day or during the night, and the prisoners were transported away by vehicle." End of quote. The question I have for you is, how did you learn, become aware that Ing Suri clarified for Office 870 the people who were implicated? How did you become aware that Ing Suri identified who those people were and the sections they worked in.
On certain occasions, Ieng Sari told me, but at other times, Bong So Hong told me. We worked together at that time, and then they told us that these individuals were to be taken away. So we worked there together, Uncle Ieng Sari and Brother So Hong.
I'm glad you've mentioned So Hong because I wanted to give you a chance to respond to something that he has testified to in this trial. In his testimony, So Hong indicated that there were some occasions where cadres who were to be arrested were taken outside the ministry building by you and then picked up there by Office 870 people and taken away. Let me read specifically the testimony that he gave so that you have an opportunity to respond to that. And the reference is from trial transcript E1/69.1 at page 16. So Hong was asked, "Do you know where the people who were taken away from that office went to?" And his response was as follows, quote, "I knew that Cheam took those people away. I did ask Cheam about it, that is, where those people were taken to, and I said, could it be me next time? I was kidding at the time. And he said to me that he took those people out of the office, and then other people came to take them from him, so he did not know about that." End of quote. Were there occasions where you took the people who were to be arrested out of the ministry office where they were then picked up by the personnel from Y10?
Yes, there were, as indicated by Bong Su Hong, and I also indicated earlier that on certain occasion I took those people out of the ministry, and then we would meet up with the people designated by the Office 870 in one of the locations, and then they would take them away from me, and I did not know where they took those people to. That was based on the statement I made earlier that once there were statements implicated any individuals from Office 870, and Office 870 instructed Ieng Sari, then Ieng Sari would continue to instruct us to carry out the instruction, or otherwise Bong Su Hong would instruct us.
That was the next question I wanted to ask you, which was on the occasions when you did take people who were to be arrested outside the ministry, who instructed you to do that?
As I said earlier, Ieng Sari and Bong Su Hong were my direct superiors. Only the two leaders here instructed me.
And in the cases of when ministry cadres were taken away by personnel from Office 870, did you ever see those persons again?
I did not see them because they were arrested, and I did not see them. I did not know about their fate.
Thank you. I want to turn now briefly to another subject, which is the issue of students or intellectuals who returned from abroad to Cambodia. After liberation, are you aware whether Ing Sari instructed or encouraged students and intellectuals who were living overseas to return to Cambodia?
On this point, I have mentioned subsequently in my statement, since Uncle Ieng Sari was responsible for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he educated the cadres and intellectuals who were willing and happy to come and serve the nation. Then he would appeal to them, and he was happy to receive those intellectuals. For example, he would take individuals who were considered intellectual to serve in Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Of course, we could not recruit farmers to work in the ministry because they could not write and read very well. And in addition, our work was relating to foreign affairs and diplomatic communication also, so we needed intellectuals in order to handle those important tasks.
What happened to students or intellectuals who returned from other countries during the regime? Where were they sent when they arrived in the country?
On this point, following the liberation on the 17th of April 1975, Office 870 managed the work directly, and as for the ministry with which I work, we only invited the intellectuals who were interested in working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to work with us. As for intellectuals in general, it was under the management of Office 870.
And are you aware of the location that was under Office 870 where returning intellectuals and students were sent?
The location was in Bang Trabai. It was under Office 870, and another place was Puntalai. I did not its whereabouts, but I heard of these two locations.
Was there did Boeing Trebek at some point was it transferred from under Office 870 to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
In late 1978, Pong disappeared, and then Von came to take the place as the chief of Bang Trabai. And then Office 870 instructed that it be transferred under the supervision of B1. At that time, intellectual Saint On was the chief, and he was there as well. And then later on, Brother Hao Nam Hong was also there.
Prior to the time that Boeing Trebek was transferred to the ministry, do you know whether or not Ing Sari, in his capacity as a member of the Standing Committee, had any involvement or responsibility for the students and intellectuals at Boeing Trebek?
On this point, I did not know as to how much Ing Sari was involved, but when Office 870 transferred the supervision role to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Uncle Ing Sari and Bong Su Hong, together with me, met with the intellectuals over there, and we also conducted training sessions with them as well over there.
How many times did you go to Boeing Trebek after it was put under the control of the ministry?
From the time when this center was transferred under the supervision of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I went there rather frequently, but I dealt only with the livelihood and situation of people over there. I visited there often, sometimes once a week or sometimes once every 10 days. And or in short, whenever there was any urgent matter to be dealt with, I would visit there without any scheduling.
And how many times were you aware of that Ing Sari went to the Boeing Trebek site?
Response. We went together, he and I and Hong. It was already in late 1978. We were there on 3 occasions only.
How many people were located at the Boeing Trebek site when you went there?
Response. I saw a lot of people whose names I don't remember. There were people from from the ministry, people who came along with their spouses and children. Too many people there.
You indicated that Ing Sari provided some instruction or teaching while you were at Boeing Trebek. Can you tell us a little more about what subjects were discussed or taught by Ing Sari at Boeing Trebek?
response. So far as I remember, during the sessions, he presented to us the update on the global situation and situation within the country. And he emphasized firmly the roles of intellectuals in contributing to the socialist revolution, or social revolution rather. And he said that people with higher education should partake in the movement and build oneself in accordance with what the revolution would want us to become. And they also needed to be in self-criticism sessions as the others.
Mr. President, I have about a 10-minute further of questions. I spoke to the civil party lawyers at the break, and they told me that they do not require the full afternoon. So if I needed the first 10 minutes of the afternoon session, they were willing to allow me to finish then. So I can either continue on now, or I can use the first 10 minutes of the afternoon before turning it over to the civil parties.
The President, since it is now appropriate time for lunch adjournment, we shall now adjourn, and indeed for the time you would like to put questions to the witness this afternoon, you could do so when we resume for the 10 minutes you asked. And the court officer is now instructed to ensure that Mr. Witness and his duty counsel be properly assisted during the lunch break and have them return to the courtroom by 1:30. Security personnel are now instructed to bring Mr. Kyusampon to his holding cell and have him returned to the courtroom by 1:30.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ